Just because you tell your story doesn't mean you're trying to hurt someone. It's just your story. I want to share with you some true events about me. I'm not telling the story to harm anyone. I'm telling the story to help people. And I've always told my stories to help people. But the people that I'm talking about might not like that I'm doing it, but they'll survive. And that's what this is all about, right? Survival. For them, it might be about survival of the fittest. For me, it's just about surviving as a black woman in general. Black women are about 3 times more likely to die at the hands of a partner or ex-partner than members of other racial groups. Intimate partner homicide is almost among the leading causes of death for black women ages 15 to 35. There are different types of abuse: sexual, physical, verbal, emotional, psychological. Nowadays, an abuser can use technology to harass someone. I was physically and sexually abused as a child. The first time I was physically abused by my own intimate partner was when I first moved to Atlanta in 2000. In the 16 years I lived in Atlanta, I have had 4 ex-partners that were physically abusive, 3 of which I was engaged to. Free Benjamin, whose father used to abuse him. Courage Osadeller, who, according to his close friends, had a history of abusing women before he met me. And Lloyd Parchment, who was also abused as a child. Domestic violence is one of the most chronically underreported crimes in America. According to the NCADV, about 75% of physical violence against women committed by an intimate partner goes unreported to the police. Black women comprise 8% of the U.S. population, but 22% of intimate partner homicide victims and 29% of all female victims of intimate partner homicide yearly. Among African American women killed by their partner, almost half were killed while in the process of leaving the relationship. Between 20% and 80% of abused women leave or try to leave their abusive relationship, according to the University of Minnesota's Institute on Domestic Violence in the African American community. I believe that my first year with Free Benjamin was the best relationship I've ever had. We were madly in love with each other. You couldn't break us away from each other. I knew all his friends. He knew all my friends. We always hung out with each other. I loved him so much. So much. I believe that what caused most of the issues inside of my relationship with him was our abuse of drugs and alcohol and his problems with the law. He also admitted to experiencing a level of jealousy because I was in a better position than he was career-wise and was making a lot more money. Our arguments seemed to escalate, and it seemed we began to bring out the worst in each other. Our arguments became physical one day, and every argument after will always result in him physically attacking me. He held me hostage in my own apartment for 3 days. The 3rd day, while he was sleeping, I climbed down from the balcony of my 3rd-story apartment and ran across the street to my relative's house to get help. He came over to the house looking for me. I hid in the closet when my cousin turned him away. I didn't call the police. Once, in the middle of the night, during an argument, he pushed me down a flight of concrete stairs outside of my apartment. My scream woke up my mother, who was sleeping in the master bedroom during the altercation. I didn't call the police. It wasn't until I finally got fed up and fought back as hard as I could, which resulted in him restraining me from behind, using his arms to hold down my arms and picking me up off my feet. Both fell face up on the bed. That's when I realized I wanted our relationship to be over. It wasn't until 2009 that I met Courage. He was a struggling photographer no one was taking seriously, but I saw some potential in him. I really loved his work. He was great to me. Of course, there were a few things he needed to work on, like editing and lighting, but those could easily be fixed. He was shooting up-and-coming no-name models. I was already coming towards the end of a very successful modeling career that I had been doing for about 5 or 6 years by then. I was already well known, and I had just started publishing Block Dimes magazine. We teamed together, and I put my career to the back burner and started working on his photography company, 2020 Photography. From the very beginning of our relationship, I realized that he was extremely promiscuous. Having access to his personal computer and social media networks, I saw how many females, including other models, he was interested in romantically. A few months into our relationship, I moved into his house with him, his parents, and his sister, who was soon to be married. Our entire relationship revolved around work. We barely had time to do anything outside of working on photography and publishing. The focus was mainly on helping him generate money. My popularity helped push his brand, and it created a level of popularity that catapulted his own. The more popular he became, the more money he made, the more problems we had. The more models he met, the more trips he took. The more he cheated, the more arguments we had. Our arguments turned into physical arguments. He blatantly disrespected me and belittled me in front of a crowd. He played my own friends and business associates against me. It's like he didn't want anybody else to love me. He didn't want anybody else to have me. He didn't even want me to be friends with anybody else. He didn't want me to work with anybody else. And any small rumor that he had may heard from someone, he ran with it. He never defended me in conversation. He just always ended up taking someone else's side. Now that I think about it, it's really, really strange that he was doing that. But when he was doing it then, nothing in me said maybe I should leave this man. I think I just didn't want to believe that he was that type of guy, because he always came off to be so sweet. I mean, he was my friend first. He was just really my friend. Like, we had a really good friendship. But the popularity started making him change. He changed into a different guy. He was no longer the Courage I used to know. I saw that he had an anger management issue too late. Twice he purposely almost ran me over with his car. Once he punched me so hard in the jaw I couldn't move my mouth and I had to talk through my teeth for a week. The physical abuse left me with scars and bruises on my arms and legs that we'd have to Photoshop out so that they wouldn't be seen in my modeling pictures. Oh, don't get it twisted. Sometimes he be hitting me and I try to kill his ass. Even after all of the things that we had been through, he still ended up proposing. And he gave me this beautiful ring. It was beautiful, but it just, having it just seemed wrong. It seemed like it didn't fit me. I'm a very modest person and very plain, you know, and when he gave it to me, it just didn't seem like it fit me. It still had the tag on it. It just seemed like he had bought it for someone else. It wasn't until a model by the name of Montana de Leon spoke to me about what he was doing with other models, and she suggested I leave him. She was one of the models that he was coming after. So I gave him his ring back. And even after our breakup, we somehow still got into domestic violence disputes because he began following me. I started hearing so many rumors. I mean, so many things that he was saying about our situation, you know, and when you're in a public relationship like that, it's like everybody knows what's going on, or to some degree what's going on. And, you know, even our personal friends was telling me versions of stories that he had said, and I just was like, I need to fix this. So I took to the internet and wrote a blog to diffuse the rumors and spoke as truthful as I could about our experiences. I even filed a restraining order. Out of anger, he uploaded Photoshop pictures of me naked online, telling people that in real life I was fat and ugly. Once he followed me to the gas station parking lot and trapped me inside of my car, using his car to stop me from getting out of the parking space. I used the OnStar button in my truck and the police showed up to defuse the situation. It was starting to get so ugly that my mother and family were getting involved. Like, sometimes he'd knock on the door and my mother wouldn't try to let him in, and he'd try to bust through the door. My mother ended up getting a shotgun at the house. Then one day, after he beat me up so bad, my mother and my sister went over to his parents' house and spoke to them about me, and they got into an argument at the house, and I don't even know what happened. It was so ugly. It was such an ugly situation. But even after that, I try not to be bitter. You know, I tried not to be bitter. In 2011, I started a new relationship with an old friend, Lloyd Parchment. Lloyd and I had met years before I met Courage. We were friends for at least 5 years before we got together romantically. Lloyd is originally from New York. When we first met, we were interested in dating, but that came to a halt when his girlfriend, whom I had no clue existed, contacted me and told me that the two of them were moving into a new home together. She also revealed to me that they had shared a son. When I brought that information to his attention, he admitted it, and we broke ties. No hard feelings. We just broke ties romantically, but we decided to continue to be friends. But by the time we were deciding to rekindle our situation, that situation had happened like 5 years ago. And here it was 2011 now, 5 years later, and he already knew about Courage. He knew my situation with that. So it was easy for me to make a transition from Courage to him because we were already friends. I felt like I could trust Lloyd with at least my life because he'd been my friend. Now, earlier this year, I did a video collaboration with Minister Jab. We had a romantic attraction to each other. Okay. And, you know, I liked him. You know what I mean? I thought he was really sweet and he had this smile. You know, I just really thought he was a good guy. But after I saw a couple of Facebook posts he made in relation to his disdain for single mothers, I pulled away, disappointed that we couldn't have the friendship I hoped we could. He did not take too kindly to me beginning to pull away, and he became bitter. He became verbally abusive, which made me pull away from him even more. All it did was remind me of the experiences I've had In physical abusive relationships, they all started off with verbal abuse first. So when he was talking to me and he was calling me names and things like that, it didn't affect me the way that I guess it would affect a normal woman, because for me, it kind of scared me and pulled me away from him. It was a disappointment. When toxic types, physically or verbally abusive men, can't control the way a woman sees herself, or they can't control a woman in general, they start to control how others see that woman. A smear campaign is an attempt to sabotage the reputation of someone and slander their name. Once Jap saw an opportunity to spitefully expose me, someone with a bigger audience than his, he decided to monopolize off of that to get more views and subscribers for his show. He contacted an ex-partner of mine who I was having another public problem with, Chris Law. Chris Law had been spreading rumors about me in the city of Atlanta, and he and I had got into it by him calling me a hoe, which was extremely disrespectful to me because that's not something he had ever called me before. You know, I heard rumors about him calling me stuff, but I never believed that he would do something like that until he actually said it to me. And then it changed everything. So because I was already promoting my book, Unicorn Atlanta, and Chris Law was a part of Unicorn Atlanta, I mentioned his name in a promo video. And Jap saw this video and decided, well, hey, I'm going to put Chris Law on my show. Jap also decides he wants to dig deeper into my personal life by using social media networks. Back to 2011, it didn't take long for Lloyd and I to decide that we wanted to be together. He proposed soon after we started dating. I ended up pregnant the second time we had sex. Because he couldn't afford a ring, I tattooed his name on my wedding ring finger. Our relationship was very public, just as public as my relationship was with Courage. He was with me at all of my bookings and events, right by my side, just how Courage was. Lloyd's father and brother both began contacting me on Facebook, and his family started to get to know me. His father, Lloyd Preston Parchment, and his brother, Devon Parchment. In the process, I ended up finding out about his ex-wife, Antonisha, who claimed that he refused to pay child support for a daughter that he shared with her. Speaking of families, no one in my family liked Courage. No one. While I was dating Courage, my daughter was actually living with her father in Charlotte. And Courage and I were in Atlanta. But when he did meet my daughter did not like him at all. When my daughter finally came to Atlanta from Charlotte with her father, she did not connect with Courage at all. She met him one time after he and I had broken up and told me she never wanted to see him again. It's rare I introduce my daughter to men unless I know for sure I'm going to take them serious. My daughter met Lloyd after we got engaged and she loved him. My family loved Lloyd. He and my mother would sit in the house and talk for hours. We'd go out to family outings together. We'd go to church together. Even my daughter's father was cool with Lloyd. It seemed like I had finally found someone I was going to be with forever. I just loved what Lloyd stood for. I mean, from the beginning of our friendship, we always talked about the ministry. We always talked about God. We always talked about spirituality. I mean, we just was on the same level intellectually, and you know, we were trying to go somewhere with our careers. During that time, he was an actor. I was modeling, and you know, it's just, it seemed like it flew. It just seemed like a flow. It naturally just was flowing right. Then suddenly, it wasn't. Lloyd needed surgery on his spine. It was me who took him to surgery. When I came to pick him up, the nurse said to me, "Congratulations, I heard you're pregnant." I was like, wow. She said, yeah, he was a little talkative under anesthesia. She gave me a list of responsibilities, and when I saw him, he was somewhat under anesthesia. He could barely walk. He could barely talk. I had to get him out the car, up the stairs. When I finally got to the house, I'm 5 foot even, and Lloyd is about 6'2" or maybe 4. He's built like an athlete. I had to carry him up a flight of stairs. I get him in his room and I get him in the bed. Now I look over and I see on the wall an old phone charging, which I'm surprised he still has because he's had a new phone for the past month. So I grabbed the phone, and in it are texts from the live-in girlfriend he had before he started dating me. He told me that he hadn't seen her in months, and according to the text, he had seen her a couple of times within the last 4 months. I was even surprised they were even talking. I mean, it shocked me. Like, I just never expected him to be that. You know, I just never expected him to be talking to her at all. If he was talking to her in a more friendly way, then I probably would have been okay with that. But it seemed that they were talking about getting drinks together and just doing too much, doing the most. So I took her number down. I looked at him one last time while he was sleeping, and I left. I went home and I called her. And I was kind when she answered, and I told her who I was and why I was calling. Immediately, she gets upset, starts yelling as if she's his woman. She tells me that she's his woman. She doesn't even know who I am. She didn't even know he had a fiance. I hung up with her and I go on about my day. Maybe 5 or 6 hours later, Lloyd calls me. Apparently, she called him and told him what happened. Immediately, he begins to lie to me. Now, we've already had issues in the past with him lying about his son's mother in New York. So I'm hoping this time around, he's just going to tell me the truth so we can move forward. I'm hoping he doesn't have a third baby mama he hasn't told me about. I refuse to talk to him for days because he just decides he wants to continue to lie to me over the phone. So finally, I answer his calls and I tell him that if we can talk and he tells me the truth, we can still get married. Now, we were supposed to get married the next week. We're supposed to be at the courthouse, at the Justice of Peace next week. I just wanted a small ceremony. I didn't want like this huge wedding. I wasn't trying to buy this fancy wedding dress. I just wanted to be with him. I just wanted to marry my husband. I was already calling him my husband. He was already calling me his wife. We were just flowing just fine. All of this is happening a week before we're supposed to be married. I drive over to his house. I haven't been there a solid 2 minutes and he's back lying again. So I start to leave. I get in the car. He follows me to the car, gets in the passenger seat. I'm like, Lloyd, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Us talking about this is making it worse and you just keep lying to me. I asked him several times to get out the car because I can feel myself starting to get angry. So I'm asking him over and over and over to get out the car and he won't. Suddenly he screams, "So what, I'm fucking my ex? What's the big deal?" That's what he says to me. And I'm telling you, I don't know what came over me. Some kind of rage that I couldn't even keep in came over me. And I slapped the shit out of him. He takes his hand and mushes my head into the driver's side window of my truck. So I slap him again. And he takes his hand again and smashes it into the window. Remember, I'm pregnant when he does this. I'm pregnant when he does this. Like we the same damn size. I try to control myself because everything in me wanted to try to kill this nigga. And at that exact moment, I started thinking about all of the abuse I experienced as a child, the 2 abusive relationships I had before him, and how he was abused physically as a child. I said in the calmest voice I could find, please just get the fuck out. And he finally got out. It wasn't until after our breakup that Antonisha, his ex-wife, and his brother started talking to me about his pathological lying patterns, his cons, and stolen identity attempts and warrants out for his arrest. They flat out just started telling me the truth. I was like, why y'all ain't tell me this stuff beforehand, man? That was the last time I was in a relationship. That's the last time I decided to be monogamous. That's the last time I actually took trying to be married serious. And yeah, I had a life partner after that. Me and Ben was together. And I was with Ben for a long time. But I never went back to the woman that I was before that. The type of woman to where I just wanted to be a wife and a mother so much. I never went back to being that woman. That will be the 3rd and last time I attempt to get married. That will be the last time I trust a man with my life. What even possessed me to hit him in the first place? Earlier this year, someone from Georgia Health Services came to my house and we spoke for 4 hours about my life specifically. She asked me why didn't I call the police when Lloyd hit me? I said because I hit him first. She said, he is a man. I don't care if he hit you first. I could see if you two were the same size. Don't even let this happen to you again. If a man hits you, regardless to whether you hit him or not, call the police, he will be arrested. What I wanted to say to her is, honey, I'm the one crazy. Why would anyone hit anyone who was bigger than them? Clearly, I needed a straitjacket. Lloyd made me see something that had become a part of me that was never supposed to be a part of me to begin with. Now, I know most women are supposed to rely on men to be decent men, but not all men are decent enough to not hit a woman back. We can't expect for all men to be nice, especially men who would say something as mean as, so what, I fucked my ex, what's the big deal? Did I hit him trusting that he wouldn't hit me back? No, I was just really pissed. And I felt like he deserved to be hit. And if I could have punched the fuck out of him like I was a man, I would have. The fact that I even felt that way disturbed me, but even to this day, I feel that often. I have the urge to slap the shit out of someone often. Is that normal is the question. I was becoming the very person I had been trying to escape from all of those years. Michelle Gilbert and I were talking via text. She had been checking out my videos and had been following this storyline between Minister Jap, Chris Law, and I. She's texting me every day, all day. Girl, just got the gossip, want the tea. She tells me via text that Lloyd had did an over-the-phone interview with Mr. Jap earlier this year. I was like, oh, is that so? Before he did this so-called interview that I didn't even know happened, he contacted me and told me that Minister Jap had contacted him and asked him to be on his show. And he told Minister Jap no, and that he didn't want anything to do with the drama. I was like, listen, I don't either. I have a little bit of respect for my past with Lloyd, and even if I speak of Lloyd, it's rare that I have even mentioned his name. I haven't said Lloyd's name out loud in a video in so many years. Like, it's been years, you hear me? Like, if I tell a story about Lloyd, I never say I'm talking about him, because I try not to mention any guy that I've been with. I try not to mention their name. So imagine my surprise when Michelle tells me that Lloyd has actually been on Jap's channel when I hadn't even mentioned Lloyd to Michelle. I'm wondering how the name Lloyd is even someone she knows. So immediately I contact Lloyd and I'm confused, and I say to him, you actually did this interview? And he is cussing me out. He's mad at me. He's letting me have it. And you know what he says to me? You told them that you got an abortion. I closed my eyes. I said, Lloyd, you're so stupid, because it was Lloyd that told me to avoid the haters. It was Lloyd that said to me, you know what? Don't let this shit get to you. Don't listen to the drama. Don't be a part of the rumors. Just let it go. And for him to actually participate in it shocked me. And I said, you so stupid, Lloyd. That is so dumb. You should know better by now. And he blocks me on Facebook, right? So I'm like, you know what? This is just ridiculous, right? Lloyd says that Jap told him that I told everyone that Lloyd made me get an abortion. The messes that Jap makes are ridiculous. People have heard me say that my ex made me get an abortion. And usually I keep people's names out of my stories. I guess idiots would think I've only had one ex my entire life. Lloyd did not make me get an abortion. I've never said that, and I never will. We had a miscarriage. I'm pregnant in this picture. It was Kevin, my first love, who made me have an abortion. Misinformed people cause more problems than they think they do. Now Lloyd is somewhere mad at me, thinking I told the world he made me get an abortion because that asshole Jap didn't have his facts straight. If you're gonna be all up in my business, make sure you tell it right. You know, the fact that so many people are so anxious to jump to so many conclusions and make so many assumptions about people without asking people is the reason why so many people have problems inside of a relationship. It's so many communication problems, I can't even believe it. Making up your own events in relation to somebody else's life is just stupid as fuck. It makes you look stupid as fuck. Lloyd did make me get an abortion, and it hurts me that someone would say that because we lost our child together. And Lloyd was a very, very important part of my life. And for what I understand, he got in this interview on Jap's channel and told everyone we were never engaged, that we were never together. And when I told my family he did this interview this year, my family was even more hurt, because it took my family a long time to stop being hurt over this. Like, my daughter cried so hard because she loved Lloyd so much. She loved him so much. And when he did this, it just broke her heart. It broke her heart. And it broke my mother's heart. And my family was just so torn about it because they loved him so much. And you know, when people are on YouTube and they're talking about my life, you know, they have to understand there's a difference between what's happening on YouTube versus my personal life. And you have to know how to understand the difference. You have to know how to understand that there's a significant difference, and sometimes you overstep boundaries when you try to dig too deep into somebody's personal life. My relationship with Lloyd and my miscarriage and stuff was very, very hurtful for me. That really hurt me really bad. And For people to make a mockery of it and misinform and try to bring it up and put their own spin on it is ridiculous to me. It's very hurtful. This whole situation, it was hurtful. Now, speaking of hurtful shit, and Minister Jab and Chris Law. Chris Law made the whole Michelle Gilbert person up just to spark a 2-week-long conversation with me via text, pumping me for information about them, which is very cruel, childish, and malicious. Chris Law admitted it to me a few weeks ago, that it was him the entire time pretending he was a female fan of mine who had been watching my videos. And it was this Michelle Gilbert person who Chris Law was pretending to be that told me that Minister Jap was engaged, and that when he made his trip to Atlanta and met up with Chris, he was actually coming down to Atlanta with his fiance, which was a lie, which was just something to tell me. And that lets you know that so many people are conjuring up so many malicious things and horrible things on YouTube or in life in general, just to hurt people purposely. And he got Chris to tell me this to see how I would feel, because Jap knew how much I liked him, and Chris knew how much I liked Jap. So this Michelle Gilbert persona that they created to, just to try to pump me for information and try to see how I felt about both of them, it's hurtful, it's cruel, it's like malicious, and it's very, very vile, and it comes from a very evil, ugly place. Like, who would do that? And that level of maturity is so disturbing in men over 30. I don't trust men, and this is why. For the most part, even if a man has positive characteristics, the negative ones overshadow the positive every time. I'm not expecting a man to be perfect. I'm expecting a man to be a gentleman. I'm expecting a man to be honest with me. And I'm expecting a man to care for me as a woman. Just because I'm a woman and I'm gentle and I'm vulnerable, and I feel like I can't be fragile around men. I can't love them. I can't let them love me. I can't do any of that. It's just so disturbing. And I remember after all of this stuff with Jap, after all of this drama that's been going on with men, where I feel like I've been abused physically and mentally, and men have been abusing me online and talking to me all kinds of crazy and bullying me. And then Minister Jap came. And after all of this, I ended up with Daddy-O, and me and Daddy-O, we would sit down and we would talk about Jap, and he would say, you like Jap, don't you? And I was like, yeah, I really like Jap, but he was so verbally abusive, and I just feel like I can't even genuinely, innocently like a guy anymore. Like, I can't even feel anything for men anymore, because if I put myself in that situation, I'm gonna be fucked. The cost of domestic violence goes far beyond bruises. Black women who are battered are at a greater risk for physical ailments, mental illnesses, suicide, lowered likelihood of practicing safe sex, and greater likelihood of substance abuse during pregnancy. In addition to the cost of direct medical and mental health services linked to domestic violence is $4.1 billion a year. What all of these men have in common outside of their interest in me romantically is that all of them were struggling financially or had some sort of issues with my success in relation to theirs. Intimate partner violence among Black Americans happens more often among low-income couples, those who live in poor neighborhoods, or in cases where the male partner is unemployed or underemployed. Domestic violence against Black women also fits into a larger culture of misogyny that targets all women. What these men also had in common was that they didn't take accountability for any of their actions and pointed at me. They constantly accuse you of being guilty of what they do. They try to humiliate you in front of others. I know an abuser when I see one. I've grown up around them. I've lived with them. I've dated them. I was almost one. I keep distance from men for more reasons than one. I can't take the cruelty. I can't take the maliciousness, the way that they are designed and are comfortable with being unloving and disrespectful. That just won't do for me. Celibacy sounds awesome. I've learned the hard way that men will lie their way out of anything, and that they don't really care who they hurt in the process, because there is a level of selfishness that denies them the ability to have compassion for women. I don't think any man I've ever been with genuinely cared for me more than they care for themselves. I do not need a man for survival. My first love, Kevin, told me once that having a man is a luxury, not a necessity. So far, there isn't anything luxurious about me committing to a man. Maybe one day, a man will come along and prove me wrong, but until then, I'm completely fine with keeping my distance. I will never be in a situation where I become the very thing I try to avoid again. I will never mirror the behavior of the men who abuse me ever again. I can't let these men change me. So in order for me to stay a sweetheart, to stay kind, to stay gentle, to stay loving and caring, I just stay away from them. Because I don't want a man to bring out the worst in me. And so far, that's what they've done. I appreciate you watching. If you have any comments, you can text me at 678-856-3463, or you're welcome to email me at welovesoncerae@gmail.com. Have vision and stay focused. Namaste. Come celebrate my 37th birthday with me, June 1st, 2017. I'll be on the Amazing Getaway hosted by TV personality Nicole Hoops Alexander and our celebrity friends on board the Carnival Sensation Memorial 2017. We're going to Turks and Caicos, selling out of Miami. Reserve your cabin now with a $100 deposit by going to www.theamazinggetaway.net. There'll be music artists there, professional basketball and football players, actors, reality stars, and more. No passport required. Please share with everyone. This will be an amazing birthday for me, and I can't wait to see you there. Make sure you like and share my videos. Subscribe to my channel. Tap the bell so you can get future notifications of my new uploads, okay? If you'd like to donate to my nonprofit, Block 11, the link is in the long description box below, okay? Have vision and stay focused. Namaste.